good evening, good evening, one and all. Good morning, good night, wherever you're at. Welcome to another Sunday evening with the Waterhouse Vibes crew. Gentlemen, there is much to talk about. Much. I say much because last week we had a discussion on this platform, and it seemed as if what was said then, touched some folks and they react. Let me say this. Waterhouse Vibes have no intention of getting into the passa passa and the mix up. No, that's not what we are about. As we say, and you see that banner running at the bottom of the screen. Waterhouse Vibes is a free speech platform. By that I mean anyone free to come, express themselves as long as them not curse no one. That's our position. So the recent impasse between the different groups, call to action, crime prevention task force, and what have you. We're not going to get mixed up into that. No, we're not. We are here for a bigger purpose. But while I say that, I must say this. I grew up with Mr. Rattigan from the 60s. And I always view him as a man of integrity and principle. And nothing's said recently is going to change my mind about Mr. Rattigan. I know him quite well. We grew up together. You understand me? It's like a family. Until someone can tell me something different, I'm not going to target nor label Mr. Rattigan as dishonest or a man lacking principle. Equally, I'm not going to label Herb, Francis, or Jamaican Carlos as anything other than how they present themselves to me and how they relate to me. Okay? So, those who feel a way, I hope them understand this, that this is our position, my position. You know, my position, this platform is a free speech platform, and anyone, Mr. Rattigan, Herb, Mr. Francis, everyone is invited to come on this platform because our thing is about unity. We interested in uniting the Jamaican people. We interested in moving our people further away from tribalism. That's our position. Having said that, I must say this. When I listen to the remarks from the brethren, them, I keep on asking myself this question. Is it something, how does one become a leader? Is it something you get up and label yourself, call yourself a leader? Furthermore, what is it that we Jamaican expect from our leaders? What exactly do we expect of them? This, I think, is a critical question that Jamaicans need to look at because, especially now, we are going into an election. It is obvious from the remarks of this week by the Prime Minister and the People's National Party that election is bound to happen anytime soon. And while the Jamaican people and the political parties prepare for this general election, I think there are some serious questions that we need to ask ourselves. What type of leadership we want? What should we expect from our leaders? We have leaders, we have a bunch of leaders from Busterman to come right down in the political sphere. Are we satisfied with that with the type of leadership we manifest by these individuals? We have Michael Man, the type of leadership, a more democratic approach. Then the next extreme is Eddie Siaga. Are we willing to go further in either direction? Are we willing to move away from it? These are questions I think Jamaicans should be looking at right now. But I think a more important question is, do we, Jamaican people, should we be thinking about a manifesto? A manifesto that articulate our expectation, the standards, our intent, motives, and everything. Should the Jamaican people be talking about a manifesto now? Listening to the brothers, Mr. Rattigan, Herb, Mr. Francis, and Jamaican Carlos, and others in the diaspora. I think now is a time we, the Jamaican people, at home and abroad, should be thinking about a manifesto. And what sort of manifesto we want. Because there's all sort of manifesto out there. Everybody have a view or whatever. But what exactly are we talking about? Today, I have with me Mr. John Arton. Mr. John Arton is a man who, one time national leader for the teachers movement in Jamaica, is a well-known educator, activist in the Caribbean. Also, we have Ishmael Douglas, another young man from St. Andrew, a leader in his own rights, and Patrick McCarthy. Patrick McCarthy, originally one of the leaders in Waterhouse, in organizing the Waterhouse community. And I'm hoping to have Mr. Las Crawford with me, who is also another organizer. And I want to explore with these brothers, better yet, engage the Jamaican people around those questions. Is it time for us to be thinking, talking about a manifesto for the Jamaican people? And what should the content of this manifesto be? I think that the conflict between the different groups present us with an opportunity to explore this question. I might be wrong, I'm not sure, but this is what I'm thinking. Brethren, good evening, good evening. Again, and let me say good evening to the listeners. I posed that question and I'm not sure which of you want to take it up. But John, you've been a man active at the national level as a leader. You have heard the argument, the dispute, and what have you. Should we be thinking about a manifesto? And I might be posing the question wrong, John, but I'm open to guidance from you. What do you think? And by the way, can you sit back so that we can see your face? We don't want to just see your bald head. We want to see your face too. You put your camera. All right. All right, my brother. Go ahead. John, you're mute. John, you're mute.
I'm not sure if you're noticing is three persons on the live now, and I hear you keep calling John's name, so I'm not sure if his camera isn't working because I'm not seeing him either.
But I'm seeing him here.
So you don't put him on then. So put him on. There we go.
Right. And you also need to
oh,
put on
ja-
you
but
have
he's
one
not
other
there.
person who is there who you don't put on either.
Who is that person? I don't see that person. I'm looking for Lass, but Lass is not there.
Or is last not there? Wasn't he there a while ago when I
He was
first came
there.
on?
He was Yeah, he was there, and it said that his device is not. You need to reconnect his device. So let me call him. But proceed, John. You heard
Yes.
the
Well,
question.
first of all, yeah. Um, I don't know that this idea of a manifesto addresses the problem, the dispute. I purposely have avoided coming on the show during this dispute. I wrote a note to everybody saying I would not be here. And the reason being, we can't solve this problem in the public. It needs to be solved in private. And I don't agree with solving it in the public because some of the issues that are coming up almost every week, it's new things and new issues that are surfacing. And therefore, a time needs to be set aside if you're going to address this problem, to do so administratively. But the fundamental thing, in my opinion, is that the parties must agree. No more scandal in public. No washing of linen in public. I don't see what that serve, because it don't serve nothing. More than one, a lady said on here a while ago, it sounds like you're taking sides because of the comments you made at the beginning. And it's easy to say you know this one or you know that one, and therefore it suggests that we're taking sides. Anyhow, I am here for a bigger purpose, and that is to talk about the idea of this manifesto. It's not that we spoke about it. We actually went far ahead. I prepared a draft. The group talked about it. And I think we're trying to revive it now. And that's what I came on here to do, to explain why we have this document, what's the purpose of it, how it can help to unite ordinary working people, and how do we go forward with this document as something that can be of benefit. First of all, this document does not take any consideration about which party you belong to. Whether you are Labour Right, PNP, a no party, the purpose of this document is to identify what I call a declaration of aims and objectives. It's a kind of call to action. And in my view, it should not be more than 2, at the most 3 pages. Second purpose of it, and the way it calls to action, is to educate people, all of us, towards certain declared objectives. So whether you're a parent or a student, a PNP, a JLP, certain things will be listed in there which will be brought to bear based on getting feedback from different sectors. That's how we hope to prepare this document. We do a draft as much as we can, and then we're going to get other information or additional information to make it richer by taking it into different communities and groups. At the end of my presentation, I will explain one of the groups that is launching a similar feedback with whom I believe we should collaborate in order to enrich this manifesto. The document is aimed for application in any situation. So whether you're a parent, a student, a worker, a youth, even though you have different pressure upon you, different things that you want to see addressed, hopefully all of these things, for the most part, the ones that are what we like to call burning issues, will be expressed in the document. And therefore, I listed the purpose as to educate, to raise an understanding on critical issues affecting the country. I would like to tell the group that on October the 6th, the first Sunday in October, we expect to have a speaker who is an economist and who will present on the Jamaican economy and the impact on the working people. So it's not finalized and fine-tuned. The gentleman is very sensitive, and rightly so, that he is a professional economist. He's not a PNP. He's not representing any party, neither now or in the past. He doesn't wish to be addressed as comrade or sir. He prefers that you say Mr. Van Riel, if you have to call him by name. So he's going to send me something to introduce him, but we have that discussion on the economy coming up on the 6th of October. He could not do it earlier because he is hard pressed at the moment with projects that he's working on. He actually expected to complete those at the end of August, but they have been extended. So we have other people that we hope to help us in some of the areas that are presented here on the on this document. One area, so one purpose is to educate, the second is to agitate, the third is to unify, the fourth is to grow our influence through fellowship among both inside and outside of Jamaica. What does that mean? The diaspora also have a vested interest in what happens inside of Jamaica. That goes without saying. We all want to see the best for the country. And even if we're living abroad, Jamaica will always be home. Right now, depending on how the political development go in the United States, I may go back to Jamaica. I'm not going to live under a Trump government. I can tell you that straight. So I am looking at options. I don't need to come home every night and watch TV and hear what madness is being announced, like what used to happen in the last period. My pressure is a certain amount. It can only take so much, and I intend to keep myself happy and smiling and be able to enjoy life on an everyday basis, with or without certain things, Mr. Nito. So I just want to make that point that we are all living here, but it's not a guarantee that every one of us will remain here forever and ever. Amen. I have a yard, I have a passport, and even if I don't go back to that place, there are many other places. I told Nita that one of the places I would consider is Vietnam. And him asked me why I would go to Vietnam. The reason is simple. The Vietnamese people already defeat the United States in the past. There's no reason to think that if war come there, they cannot defeat again in a second time. So these are some of the things that the manifesto will do. It will give leadership and direction to grassroots people, regardless of political affiliation, no affiliation, income level, status, age, gender, color, or religion. How do we propose to do this? What is the process or the timeline? So I can't set a timeline in abstract. I was really hoping when we did the first draft, because we agreed to do it way back several months now, and I was hoping it would have been completed by the end of June. So that's not a problem for me. I'm willing to dust it off and we bring it out and we use it. But I think there is more earnest to complete a draft. And I will explain one of the things that we want to do, collaborating with another agency, a non-profit or an NGO, to help us in achieving the goals. So the timeline really, during this timeline, we seek to achieve representation of ordinary working people and youths. Even if we get expert opinion, for want of a better word, we might have an expert in crime and policing. We may have an expert in housing. My view is, at the end of the day, we know these are issues that are key to ordinary working people, especially at the community level. So even if we do get expert opinion, it doesn't mean that's an end to feedback from the working people. So let's remind everybody of the big areas. The first big area was housing. The second big area was education. It doesn't mean these areas are stuck with that name, Let's just get from our head that we don't have to have it in this order or anything, but this is what we had sent out, the last draft. The third area was what I call community living. And it was labeled Stop the Crime, Decent Community Living. And what that is saying is the lack of social justice, especially in regard to the behavior of police at the community level, must be brought to an end. We need to have a set of things, a number of points that address that issue. We don't need to say how it will be done. The manifesto does not delve so much into how these issues will be resolved, but more so, what is the end result that we would like to see in the current state of affairs in Jamaica? Number 4 was women's rights. This is a big problem in Jamaica, even though it may not be on the news, because I hear so many stories from friends, from women who take the public transport, for example, schoolgirls who are molested on the bus, and in addition, among working people, there remains the problem of equal pay. Those of us who used to work in Jamaica, like me, know full well that in many companies, women's roles are undermined. They are sexually abused by the boss or by a senior manager or someone who they report, and they must give benefits in order to stay in the job or to get promoted. Unfortunately, there is a movement in the country that addresses women's issue, but it is weak because they don't speak about these things. There's no Me Too movement that is calling out names or press putting things in social media regarding this issue, but it is a burning problem. My recollection is that the data shows that a significant, nearly 80% of women have experienced some form of abuse from an early age, whether it's from the stepfather, the baby mother, the baby mother boyfriend. There's just a litany of abuse that is experienced throughout the Caribbean, not just in Jamaica. Number 5 is the area of transparency and corruption. We use these words very much in this group. Every meeting we talk about corruption and more corruption and corruption, and people demonstrate overseas about corruption. But we need to have in the body of this document something that says what happens, the areas of corruption to make the country more sustainable. One of the points that has been noted is what we call silos. As in my work, I have experienced this. I work over in the Ministry of Finance, just using an example. And it doesn't interface with the Ministry of Education in such a way that issues of accountability and how money is spent is knowledgeable to both sides. It's like only the people who are on money might know about expenditures that are unaccounted for. This is not going to lead ultimately to an open system, a more transparent system. Number 4 is the area of racial rights. And this goes mostly to issues of the, I think I identified the Rastafari movement, who have been a cornerstone in highlighting the problem of race in Jamaica. Americans will come to Jamaica and say, boy, pure black people down here, black governor, black prime minister, black bank official, and black this and black that. In reality, we all who grew up in Jamaica know that this is just a kind of fairy tale, the way the country set up, right? So if you're white, you are all right. If you're brown, you hang around, and if you're black, you must stand back. That principle is ingrained in Jamaican society, and it's manifested in many spheres: government, civil service, the private sector, and social life. Nothing upset me more than to hear the jokes which brown people talk about black people and the names that we use, that we grew up with. When as a little boy, we hear about Butu and other terminology, which basically is really black people that is being referred to. And then some of these images are transparent into social media, and it's everybody laugh. But to me, it always sends two signals. Two is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, we are more open about it. But on the other hand, we are taking the experiences of the black majority and taking it and make joke with it. So racial rights, Garvey, Rasta, and a point that was made is about access to beaches in the country. Something that when I was a little boy in the 60s was written in Abeng. It come back around in a circle. So today we have that problem. I just came from Jamaica the other day, a funeral, and I took the Knutsford to Negril, and there's many areas I don't know. I never stop and come off and go to the beach to see how things set up. But there are many areas on the north coast and in the tourist sector, in the tourist area, where beaches are now confined to tourists, to hotels, to properties, and ordinary people don't necessarily have access to some of the better beaches in the country. I cannot give any data on this. I don't know, but if I know how the country run, just like big property, the housing, the real estate market, prices are going through the roof because foreigners, not necessarily diaspora, but people are coming. There is a property now being developed in Montego Bay, which is going to be one of these high-end real estate properties. These things drive up the cost of housing, rent for ordinary Jamaican people. And unfortunately, there is enough diaspora people who go back and can pay money with the US dollar or the pound to buy something good and decent for themselves and their families. With it does have an impact on those who live in Jamaica, especially given the income gap in the country. Number
John, you want
7 was
go
Yeah.
ahead, John.
no.
Yeah. If I may,
We don't. Let me just finish because I'm almost done, and then
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
Go, John.
yes. So number 7 is the right to work and the status of the worker. So we do have people who can present on this. Now that I'm reading it out, and who we should invite to come on the program and talk about it. It's not just unemployment. It's also questions of unionization, youth, training among the youth, and the general state of affairs in terms of where do we fit in, we meaning the working people, into Jamaica's economic development. Number 8 was the issue of economic development. Are we practicing what is generally referred to as trickle-down economics? That seemed to be the case, but the trickling down, I left Jamaica good year 2020. Even before that, now when I go home, certain communities I drive through, nothing has changed. So the trickling is really air trickle, nothing else trickle. Only air. Money don't trickle down. So Greenwich Farm and those communities that I'm familiar with, I was active in and so on, I don't see any significant change with those communities in the ghetto areas of Kingston. And certainly the same would apply Spanish Town, Maypen, Montego Bay, Mandeville. Instead, the things that you read about is like it's getting worse. So we need to have some points on this. And then number 9 was constitutional reform. We have no problem with it. so long as it is not looked at from the elevated position, which some people look at it from. I think the group that we're talking about working with, they have been able to bring it down to a grassroots level. In my discussion with the lady that is helping us to do this, or we working with them, and I'll explain that in a minute, where the questions and answers of their people when they go into communities are being done at a fairly at a grassroots level. They're not high up questions. Number 10 was the environment and climate change. Again, I don't have a clue what's being done in Jamaica, but I'm sure something is being done. And finally, the 11th area was the role and importance of the diaspora. We all have that in our head. We can think of the ways that it needs to be improved, and certainly the recent experience shows it's not a simple matter. It has to be a policy for growing the diaspora. It has to have there has to be certain principles, and we have to recognize that this policy will have to contend with the government of the day. Government is not going to support something like the diaspora or actively support it without them trying to put their own, for want of a better word, their own way or restriction or whatever to how diaspora should develop. But we must clearly be able to advocate certain basic principles. For example, regions should have the right to elect councils. This to me is a basic principle of diaspora. Um, you have a chairman or a president for the North Florida region or the Southeast USA, or so you divide up the country into different diaspora based on where the Jamaicans live, and you seek to have an election among them, which may not be a representative of everybody to begin with, but it's a start. It has to be a body that represents the interests of the views of the people in that region in respect to how what role they play in helping to build Jamaica, and how they are, how do you mobilize them? If you have a leadership in a region, South Florida region or Florida region, let's use an example. They would have a meeting. Now that we have technology, these meetings can take place through whatever region. We don't have to go there. I don't have to drive 3 hours to go to Fort Lauderdale to be in a meeting. I can go online and participate, and so on. But at the end of the day, you have a council. You have some representative who is elected, and that is a person that the government must deal with. The president of the region, whichever regions they are, would then be representing the voice of the diaspora. And if you're not happy with them, you move them, you change them, you re-elect new people. But there has to be a start, and the principle of democracy, I think, is fundamental of us in developing the diaspora. And those are the things we need some points on. The gentlemen who are actively doing work there now should be able to close their eye and list out what principles we need to to have as to help make a diaspora functional and proper. What are the things you learn, you listen, you get born? when you go at the stove and you don't know which stove you turn on, you turn on the wrong stove, you get burned. So you know the next time where you turn on the stove and how you run things a little different. So those are the 11 areas that we have listed on this document. And unless there is a decision to change anything significant about what I said, which is the purpose of it, the process through which it should go, I am not at all, I have nothing about the areas. We can always adjust the areas. Is this the time to talk about the community program? I see Ishmael is not online at the moment. Is he coming back or?
Yeah, he's coming back. He's coming back. But
Okay. Do
John,
you want me?
I
Yes.
really appreciate you set out the different points, the 11 points. But before we go further, I want
I'm here.
Herb,
I'm
I
here. I
want,
just starting something out. I'm here.
yeah,
I'm here.
Herb, I want to welcome you to the platform and the discussion. We are talking about a manifesto, how we shape a manifesto for the working people of Jamaica. And John just outlined 11 areas that he's looking at. Okay? So to bring you up to date, that's where we're at now. I want to open up the discussion to the feedback to what John just outlined. 11 points, 11 areas that he thinks we should look at. I have no problem with that. But one thing I would like to see is the issue of peace. Personally, I think that peace building
What do you
should
mean by
be a
peace? Peace in the community or peace in the world?
peace peace in the community in Jamaica. What's happening right now? If you travel, if you're following discussion around urban problems, you'll see that in addition to the police model, the hard policing and the broken window policing, there's also a movement where people, leaders are going into communities and meeting with gang leaders to create peace on the ground. Our Jamaica government said no, them not into any negotiation with gang members. Okay. I think that they need to engage the gangs. We need leaders who are committed to building a peaceful Jamaica. You know, we need that sort of leadership, and that's something I would like to see in a manifesto that speak to the, the the war between the police and the youth, them between the different gang. You understand? But that's just me. I'm interested in hearing from Lass, Patrick, and Herb. What you guys think? Ishmael. Ishmael is playing hide and seek with us, but he'll be back.
No, man, I'm not, man. I'm starting some
Tell
workout.
him that you can multitask, Ishmael. Tell him
Well,
you
we
can
need a visual.
listen.
Ishmael, you heard John Arden. You heard what John
I
said.
did. I did.
What from the youth angle? What do you think?
Well, personally, commendations for putting together. Good evening, everybody. Again, it's been quite a journey last few weeks. Um, Commendations, Herb and the team for crafting a manifesto, and you know I think it's the opportune time for us to do something like this also, um, given that we're going into an electoral year. Having said that, we have to. There's no getting around it. But if it is that you intend to craft, a working document as this, um, the best mode of operations and way of going forward, is to have dialogue with both or any political party with the intention of forming government. Um, that's number one. Number two, um, it is also prudent if you know fuse a hearing a feedback. I wonder for me, like somebody that play piano or something. I mean, I don't know. I hear a lot of
Can
feedback.
you, John Alilas, can you mute?
No, it's not me. No sound here.
Right. Thanks. Yeah, man. So I'm saying, besides meeting with both, well, sending them a letter or whatever the case is, outlining our intention. Um, the timing is also important because you don't want it to be a case where um, aspects of whatever you want to achieve or acknowledge is inside of the political party's manifesto as a whole, because it goes without saying that it is us the people. We have to wait until we see whatever it is that they want to achieve as an organization for the country, right? um so it is prudent of us to take it from that angle also. What is the mechanism for us to to to, to send this document out, and what is our intention? Because while John was speaking, I couldn't help but feel as if is taking on um this is taking on the legs of the same issue we're having now as it relates to constitutional reform, because most of the things that John was speaking about are things that we are supposed to be handling as entrenched laws and guidelines within the constitutional reform process. Um, I'm not sure if it is inside of it. However, I think it's very important for us to cross-reference whatever it is that they want to achieve in the constitutional reform process with this working document, because the truth is, you don't what you don't want is for us to do this detailed document and we don't have anywhere to put it in terms of for it to work, because the people that would have formed government would not have had any idea that an organization that is a part of civil society, or the people for that matter, have these concerns, but they weren't, shown to whichever party forms government. So that is my first few words as it relates to to that. So a manifesto for Jamaica. I like this. I like the term. But I want to know how will it work in terms of for the people and with the powers that be.
Anyone want to respond? John, Herb, Lass, Patrick.
I I I just want to say there are some triggers in the Jamaican society that need to be sorted out or smoothed over before the manifesto can become a reality. And I put it in the chat so you guys could clearly see. Developing peace in Jamaica community is going to be a multifaceted approach. And you probably heard me mention some of the key areas before, like community engagement, dialogue, fostering relationship. I talk about CDC. And Ishmael, you're very familiar with CDC and the function of CDC because you hear me. I brought it up with settling things in Waterhouse. Um, the other areas, youth empowerment, because most of the problems that Jamaica is having with crime stems from what we learn as youth, and the youth assimilated into gangs rather than some other social development institution within their communities. But if they don't have the money to go to school, advanced schooling after high school or whatever, advanced training, then they're gonna assimilate into those gangs, right? The parents don't have it, so they have to find a way to help their mothers out, usually single mother homes and stuff. Um, Conflict resolution, mediation and counseling, right? There's not nearly enough of it in the Jamaican society. Not nearly enough counselors to go around. And then where are the various um, associations or um, community centers that have counselors or people who have been trained as counselors? It just doesn't exist. Social programs to address poverty, unemployment, and social inequality. John, you spoke about some forms of discrimination. The biggest one you have in Jamaica is addressing colorism and prejudice. And you need education awareness, promoting diversity, representation, challenging social societal norms, and beauty standards. Why do people hate how they look? Why does Vibes Cartel change its colors? What was the reasoning behind that? So does it mean that if a popular person starts changing their color, that everybody else is going to follow suit? So we have to figure all of these things out. The government has to address it directly, head on. They can't keep looking the other way as if it's not happening, right? You, you hearing me, Les?
No, I
Yeah,
couldn't
man. Yeah,
hear you.
man.
Could you repeat the point again? Colorism and what?
Colorism and prejudice, right? You need education and awareness to try to suppress the bad thoughts against the colorism. People express it in, who's lighter tone, right? The lighter tone people get employed in the tourism industry, right? Um, at least that's how it used to be when I was in Jamaica. Lighter tone people are the face of Jamaica. You look on the old year Jamaica advertising uh, videos and pictures, and you could see that clearly. The people with the better hair, people would say, "Oh, you have nice hair," right? What the hell happened to those of us with the?
Herb, me take that personal, cause me now look for my ear. Careful what you say, me take that personal.
I'll send you a jar of good old fashioned pomade there,
No,
Ismail.
man, me no need nothing, man. Me just brush it, man. What you say?
Yeah. The things I'm expressing is a reality because we actually use it as a measuring stick in our various interchanges with our people. You
Correct.
walk into a place to apply for a job, and people are looking you up from head to toe. Even though you can't afford all the right clothing and everything, sometimes if you have the right type of hair and the right looks, the people openly accept you. Now, if you don't have that, then you get rejected. You can't even sit down until you look. You have to go back and do something with yourself and come back. I don't know what they expect you're going to do with yourself because you don't have the money in the first place to go dress out and to do you hear and do all kinds of different things to prepare yourself for a better approach.
But how
Uh,
do we but how do we answer the question Ishmael asks? How
what's
do
that?
we operationalize this document, these ideas?
Yeah, and
Ishmael,
what I was getting at is we have to overcome all of these things before we even operationalize. So these are roadblocks. These are
okay.
roadblocks to operationalizing this stuff. You gotta get rid of the prejudice. You gotta get rid of the discrimination that's occurring. And the
I
only
don't
way you
think
can
that's
do that,
I don't think that's what he was getting at though.
explain, Pat.
I think there's a little misunderstanding there.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Um, John outlined this manifesto, right? And I must say before anything else that, you know, we're at a point where we were quite some time ago. Because when John first introduced the manifesto idea, right, we were given copies and we're supposed to look it over and come up with our own ideas and to supplement it and be ready for a discussion and all of that. Of course, we never got to that. John went on leave or something and went away for a while, and then that became something in our distant past. What Ishmael, I think, is hinting at is before we think of coming up with this working document, right? We need to look at more intently how can it best be fitted into the Jamaican situation and not get lost as um another working document, proposal, manifesto, whatever we want to call it, just getting passed by the wayside, and it doesn't benefit Jamaica in any way. So one of the main things that we need to look at in terms of putting together this whole documentation is to look at how it can fit into the Jamaican framework and what channel we can use to bring that to bear. So I think that's what Ishmael was more geared at, not so much in terms of the problems. Yes, there are the problems we know, and the whole idea is to address the problems. But before you get to addressing the problems, you have to develop a way in which we're gonna address them, right? And how it fits into the Jamaican situation. Because that's really where it matters. What John outlined several things because John was speaking in terms of the diaspora and diaspora development, right? Then of course he mentioned the points in terms of what we need to look at in terms of Jamaica going forward, right? How we really come up with some kind of documentation, some kind of guide that can help this along, right? So John actually deal with a whole broad spectrum, and I don't think we can all of that can be put in a manifesto as such, right? But certainly it would be worth discussing because one of the things we have to get into in the discussion of that before we even get to the documentation is we have to look at the Jamaican philosophy. We have to look at the Jamaican sociology. We're going to have to look at the Jamaican history because all of these things are things that play a part in terms of anything we need to do going forward, right? And some of these things we have never touched in any of our discussions, right? So it's quite a bit, right? Like I said, John outlined a broad document, right? But I don't think all of what he outlined can be put into one document and call it a working document. Because a working document is actually going to be more concise than that because working document is something you develop as you move along, right? So that's why I want to say right now.
Last. Last, can you hear me?
Not hearing your last.
He must be on mute.
No, he's not muted.
I don't know why last. Last.
Well, let me answer in the meantime. Anybody
Yeah,
else
go
to
ahead.
speak?
Go ahead. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, the document is a short document. We're talking about 2 pages. The purpose of this document is to lift. All of what I said is not going to be in the document. The document really begins where the points begin, and it can be 2 pages. Number 2, we have to agree on when we want to conclude a first draft. I believe it's realistic to conclude a first draft by the end of the year. Number 3, we are going to collaborate with an agent, a non-profit. I forget the name of it. I looked at it before. They are
Institute of
going
Law.
into the communities. They're going in.
Law.
I'm sorry?
Institute of Law and Economics. That's the agency.
No, they're using a different name to go into the communities.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. Where the people who are at the Institute of Law and Economics are going into the communities. They're going into, I believe, 16 communities. They have a program of the next 3 months to go into all major communities in Jamaica. I met with the lady while I was in Jamaica over the phone, and we agreed that we would sponsor the meeting. We didn't agree, sorry. It was proposed that we sponsor the meeting in the Waterhouse community.
Yes, man,
So,
sir. It's ILE. It's ILE.
eh?
Yeah, man, it's ILE. It's the Institute of Law and Economics. It's the same one with Prof. It's the
Right,
same
but
one.
but they have an NGO name that she sent me
NIA,
the budget and all.
National Integrity Action.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me a budget and the rest of it. The point is, there are 2 ways. If we agree to collaborate with them, which I think we should, but we should determine the that we will sponsor a session in Waterhouse. We don't have to go. We don't have to send them money for that. We can organize that on our own if we so see fit, and we would have a money budget for X amount of people. If it's 20 people or 40 people, what I recall is that they are particularly interested in influentials, and I agree with that. So whether it's the youth influentials, the pastor, people who have influence and can command a certain amount of forces in the community would be kind of prioritized. That's who you want to bring to these meetings. So let's say we can bring out 20. Then we would work out a budget for that 20, and we would have to provide the money for the food. We have forces down there, including, I believe you are in Waterhouse, Ishmael. That's what the propaganda that reached me, is that you are actually in
It's not.
Waterhouse.
It's not.
I
It's
know.
not a
I just
propaganda.
so
It's not easy, you know.
you and other man who down there in the community would be key, and that we work through the 2 of you, identify who we're getting to come, how many, but we would be paying the money and doing the stuff to bring it about. After we have done all of that, the budgeting and so on, then we said to the group, that is coming to conduct the seminar, that we have everything in place. When do you want to come to Waterhouse? And they would say, well, I will come on October the 30th. I'm just calling a date. But they have a certain target of communities that they want to reach. So this is a way in which we are working through an existing organization that's doing what we would like to do. Our role in that is simply to extract information from that session that we can use in a manifesto, in the manifesto. So if members are in agreement, I was waiting on an additional document from that agency, that group, to do with how we can send money to them. So that my thinking was we would do two things. We would contribute to their work, those of us who want to, and two, we would help to organize, we would actually organize the session in Waterhouse. Is there anybody who would disagree with that? Especially the second one. I mean, you don't have to give money to the body if you don't want, but definitely I believe.
Disclaimer, please. What's that feedback? And I'm not sure what there's a feedback. Is that me? Is that me? Hello?
John, I'm in agreement
Yeah,
with
what's
both.
the disc?
Hello? Um, hello?
Ishmael, what's the disclaimer?
Is
Yeah, man,
anybody else in
disclaimer, anything
agreement?
related to money,
Yeah.
though me not depend that. I'm sorry, me not depend that. I've seen how money turn people, so I'm really not depend, I'm not depend that.
Well, you can't do nothing
Let,
without
let me
money,
let
you
me
know,
let me
Ishmael,
let me
unfortunately.
let me say this. Let me say this. Let me say this. I understand where Ishmael coming from, and I for one I disagree with both points that you just raised, John. All right. The thing is that, as Ishmael hinted at, right, where the money aspect is concerned, nobody wants to hear about having to contribute to anything. Because one of the things that money does is that money buys control. If I'm contributing to something, then I want to be able to have some control in terms of how the funds are directed and used. Right? And particularly if I'm held to that obligation. And secondly,
Yeah.
as far as the aspect of committing for boots on the ground down there to do the work, that's not something we can guarantee from coming from where we are, right? That has to come from the willingness of youngsters in the community, and it has to be youngsters, because the older folks, right, not looking to be in no up and down organizing or anything like that at this stage. And we see that clearly with Chris, right? So anything in terms of moving forward with the work on the ground down there, it has to be coming from the youngsters, right? And youngsters who are willing, serious, and committed, right? And
May I
that's not
suggest?
something we can guarantee from where we are.
No, we do as Patrick. Everything have challenges. So if we are going to have a meeting, we have to, the people who we know on the ground, we would have to work with them to get them to do whatever they're going to do. The first thing is to identify who. You've called two names. I don't see no reason why those two can't help us put together a plan which include a budget, because the budget here is to buy food. to have lunch. The meeting is not a 1 hour meeting. This is a 3, 4, 5 hour meeting in some instances. So any money we send, we know if it's for 20 people, we have to send money for 20 lunch and drink. Now, if you have people can mix the drink, it reduces what we spend on drink. But we have to provide food, lunch. There is a budget that the lady have, but that's separate. If you don't want to contribute to her organizing it, then we will be organizing it. I don't see any problem with that. I don't think the money we're talking about cannot buy any Porsche or any car or house or land. So that's basically it. If we agree in principle, the next step is for me to circulate a budget from them, and you guys can say, well, this is too high. We're not going to use this budget. We can provide lunch. The guys on the ground can say we can provide lunch for $1,000, Jamaican, of course, or we can provide lunch for $1,500. Any amount
So
between
now
that.
you're talking about something specific. That's not where we got
Yeah.
at first.
Well, hold on, Patrick. We're only talking about when it comes to budget, it's going to be specific.
No,
So
but hold on, John.
that's
Hold on.
what we're talking about in principle.
Hold on. Here's the thing. I want to be able to follow you closely as you speak. But you tend to be long-winded. So you will talk about something and you include a whole lot of things. And by the time you include everything, when we get to it, then it's like we kind of jumbled in terms of what we're looking at because you have outlined so much things. Right? But what you're talking about just now, as far as a budget and as far as a contribution is concerned, that's something specific you're talking about. You're talking about a specific event and talking about like providing lunch and so on, refreshment or whatever. Right? That's different. That's not the idea I got at first.
Okay, so there's no problem in terms of what we're talking
John,
about there.
No, I'm understanding you better.
Okay.
we have not heard from Las. Las, what's your take on all of this?
Still not hearing your last.
Imam, it must mute.
You may want to go out and come back in again.
No, I don't know. Las,
You have to check your connections, Lash. Make sure
I
you're
think
plugged in.
yeah, but what I understand John to be saying is that we met with Rosalie Hamilton. She was a guest on this program. And she outlined some things that she's willing to do. And we agreed that we'll work with her. Okay. She circulated some documents. I'm not sure if John circulated them to the others. But my understanding is that we will help her in organizing the event in Waterhouse. That's one. And in helping her, part of the help include making a contribution to the cost of the event.
No,
right?
let me clarify that.
Yeah, go
There are
ahead.
two ways we can help her. We
Yeah.
can pay money to her people, to her organization, based on the budget that she has given me.
Okay.
Says 20 people, 20 lunch, they have a budget. The second way we can help her is a different way, where we take responsibility for organizing lunch and we send money to whoever is organizing the lunch through us, and we have the forces on the ground that can do it, but we would have to use money. Either way, we give money. We're giving money either to our people to have the lunch for 20, or we're giving money to her. I just use 20 as a number. Or giving money to her organization to prepare lunch. Now, the second way to me I would prefer us to organize the lunch and the main costs that relate to the refreshments. If we want to donate to her organization separately, meaning those of us in the panel here or the public, if I want to give $100, I can US, I can send her money if I want to support their effort, because all of that money that they are getting as an NGO is being used to provide, is to do what they're helping us do, except that we are taking from the Waterhouse experience and the other communities that she's going to meet with information that would be beneficial to the building of this manifesto. So whereas we are organizing in Waterhouse, we are getting a benefit broader than Waterhouse if we would help them money-wise, because they're going to 16 or whatever. She gave me a number of the communities that they're going to.
Maybe we need, maybe we need to see, maybe we need to see all of that before we can really have a clear understanding.
Why don't we, this is why I didn't want to circulate it, because the first thing would have to be to explain what they mean. I have to understand it first. I'm still to get the information from about the bank account. So until I get that, I will call her and get the information. She told me that the gentleman had sent it, but when I checked this morning, it hadn't been sent. So let me get everything, and then I would send to everybody. I'm going to send to everybody. However, what we are concerned with is not the overall budget. We are concerned with supporting the refreshments. And we can contribute, whether we contribute X for whatever, or we can contribute specifically to the refreshments. That will be, that's included in the budget. We can make a decision that we agree in principle. What's the problem with that? We don't need, I mean, at least, because we're not going to meet again until another week. So I am.
But we already agreed. We already agreed in principle to work with her.
Okay, thank you. Either one of the two ways.
But I'm saying here's the thing, John. All I'm saying here is, let's not jump ahead of ourselves in terms of what commitments we make and how we want to make these commitments and so on. Let's look at the documentation that you're talking about. And yes, we need to look at the budget. We need to look at the whole thing, right? Because all of these things is part of the organization, right? And then when we look at that, that will put us in a stronger position to determine how best we can help. Right?
Correct.
Now, as far as the Waterhouse thing is concerned, I understand what you're saying there as well.
Okay.
Right? We can look at that and deal with that when it comes, and the contribution towards the manifesto and so on. But without the documentation, we don't have a clue as to what we're really dealing with. So let's see the documentation and then
right.
We'll go
now
from
there is a point. Yeah, there is a point that was raised by Ishmael about political parties. Okay, so first of all, in my view, I mean, this is my own view. We do not. There's no problem if some of the demands on the manifesto coincide with something that the PNP or the JLP or both of them have. It doesn't affect the price of cheese. Number one, that's number one. Number two, when we have prepared a complete draft of our manifesto, which I'm hoping we can do by the end of the year, then we would seek to promote it. What are some of the ways we can promote it? And I would like if Patrick write them down so that we don't have to repeat it a second time. One way to promote it is to publish it as an advertisement in the newspaper. A second way to promote it is to use a website, which we have, but which I'm not familiar with as to how it would accommodate a document of this nature. A third way to promote it would be to prepare mass document for distribution. A fourth way to promote it would be to bring it to the attention of influentials and have meetings with them. For example, the pastor at the church. For example, the principal at the school. We have meetings with certain influentials on the ground. It means we'd have to go there, and some of us, to have such meetings, and we try to get it promoted through that avenue, as well as through the influentials that we know living in Jamaica. Where he has context, just so the document, it don't require us to be, but clearly we would have both. As far as we can do, those would be the things that we would do. So it's the onus on us at this late stage is how to hurry up and make a draft. And to
I think
me,
before we get, I think before John, I think before we get to that, we need to engage Ishmael because any activity in Waterhouse will have to be led by
yeah, but
Ishmael.
I'm not that. Yeah, but I'm not
No,
this. I'm not.
hear me
No,
out, John.
brother,
Hear me out.
I'm not overturning that or opposing that, or I'm just saying these are the ways that we would promote the document.
Okay.
But you
Then
leave out a very
answering,
important
hold
one.
on, he already indicate, he raised some good points. How would we relate to the political parties? And my answer is that some things on it are going to be what the PNP or even the JLP have. So there's nothing I'm saying that preclude Ishmael or you call the name Patrick about the other person in Waterhouse. I forget the
Chris,
name.
Chris.
Chris, right. So that would be the first step. Now, we don't have to do it at this meeting because we have to discuss the thing about the community meeting. And I need to send out something to everybody, and then we have a different meeting. That's more a business meeting when I send out the thing that the lady sent me. But I still have to get something from her to do that.
But here's the thing, John.
Are you guys hearing me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But here's the thing, John. You leave out an important one. Because what is even more important than even the
You guys
website?
hearing me now?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are.
What is even more important than even the website and the advertisement in the newspaper is social media. That's where most young people get their news.
All
On
right. So
social
that's
media.
good. I don't leave it out. The concept is there are many ways that we can promote the document, Patrick. Sorry if I didn't mention that, but that's a given. I did say website. We have a website. I don't know it, but we're supposed to have a website. Pieces
Can
of
we
it
hear
can
from
be.
Las? Las,
Yeah, can I say something? I think
go ahead.
one of the problems we face in our political system is that people vote for political parties and people support political parties, but
You're breaking up.
we don't know what they are supporting. I don't know what the problem is. I just seem to be having so much problem with the audio.
Go ahead, man. We are hearing
Yeah,
you.
go ahead.
Maybe if you talk like or you just talk, it sound like it come over clearer. Yes. Gone completely now.
Yeah, I'm frozen
Hey,
again.
hey,
Huh?
let me ask you
You're
this
frozen.
question,
It's
John.
probably your internet too,
Just a minute.
because you were
Herb,
frozen just now.
Herb,
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
okay, thanks, Mike. Um, listen, you still gotta get through to young people. And we know that when you're talking to young people on social media, one page is a lot, two pages plenty. So how we have to find a way to get to them through a program that they listen to, a person that they listen to, whether it's on radio, television, podcasts, what have you. We have to know where do young people tune into and who are their influencers. And then we have to influence the influencer to want to make the announcements because you can put together the best written paper, but unless they want to read it, understand it, we're not going to get to young people. So if that is your target audience, then you got to figure out how you're going to get to them. You
No,
know,
it's but let me just clarify. Can I just answer this question? I was going to explain before that the document can be split up. I mean, there's no law that we have to circulate 2 pages. We can take out areas that represent that meet the needs of certain aspect, certain people, like youth, like workers, like parents, and we promote the points related to them through the means that they are following. We don't reach there yet. We need to prepare a draft. So this discussion really gone. It's just that we want to. People are asking, how do we operationalize it? These are the ways, but we don't have to dissect it. And we have enough people with marketing experience that we can look when we get closer to making a draft. We can take the thing and do as best as we can.
Point taken, John. Point taken. Point taken.
Ishmael, from where you sit,
Mm-hmm.
tell how you see. Is it feasible to organize this meeting in Waterhouse, given the available resources, center to organize a at the center, and have Rosalie and her team in Waterhouse?
It can all,
'Cause if you're going to implement, you'll be the lead person. You'll be the man on the ground.
yeah, but I'm saying it's always feasible to have um discussions at this level, localized. It's always feasible, because
Okay.
it's knowledge, and knowledge must always be shared. However,
And what role you see yourself playing in that?
I mean, any role I'm told to play, it's not it's not an issue. Um, you
Okay.
know, amalgamating everyone in terms of bringing them together.
So probably one thing we should be asking Ishmael John is for him to come up a target audience and a budget
No, so the thing
in
about
terms
that
of how this
is
thing will be
we
done.
need.
Hold on. Yeah, go on, Ishmael. What you were
Yeah, man.
saying?
So yeah, so myself and Prof, we spoke about that, and the target is everybody except for the political directorate,
Okay.
because it is meant for grassroots people. And when I say grassroots, I mean grassroots with influence in the respective communities. You know, the
Right.
police, the church, the
Right.
shopkeepers, the man on the corner with influence, um, you know, the youth clubs, the other organizations within the space. So it's meant for those people as well as the regular citizen, because the
How
truth
many is that?
is
How many people is that? If you were to call a number, how many you think that is?
about a 45 people just within the Waterhouse space alone.
So then, Ishmael,
Mm.
if I'm to understand you correctly, this is sounding more like a mass meeting rather than a workshop style meeting,
No man, it's not a mass meeting. The
45 people, Patrick, is not a
yeah,
mass
but
meeting.
is
huh?
a I
No,
mean,
but with 45 people, right, in a
Gentlemen,
meeting.
let's not argue over this. Now. Let's listen to Ishmael and let him finish. Okay?
so
Ishmael, go
so
go ahead, Ishmael.
so the intention. Remember, um, the intention for ILE is to bring across the information as it relates to constitutional reform and civic education to the local people, so that they can make a better and informed decision as it relates to the ongoing constitutional reform process. So that's the main reason why we decided to do it like that. Um, it it should not just be one meeting, but nevertheless, she decided to call it a workshop because it will be a consultative process, by way of
Questions
people.
and answer. Question
Right,
and answer.
right. So and then, obviously when I get them pamphlets and stuff like that, and you have your actual, your actual sessions where the people get to 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 speak exactly about their nuances and what they think the process is about, versus them getting the actual information being doubled down to their level, sort of thing. So that's what it should be. um we haven't moved forward in relation to organizing yet because of the local nuances, especially as it relates to the diaspora. So because things still fresh, so we don't want to ruffle any feathers, to be absolutely frank.
Yeah, but
Well,
from what
let me just,
from what you just said, it still sounds like it's not clearly worked out. But I guess we can deal with that at a later date.
yeah, it's clearly worked out, Patrick. We don't have to know the nuts and bolts.
No, no,
But
no. I'm talking about from what I just heard.
yeah, well, I spoke with the lady in Jamaica. She gave me a couple examples of the kind of questions that they're going to ask. They are not constitutional reform questions. They are very broad. And therefore, people who come will be expressing a response to the team that they have. Now, if we say 45, she might say, well, we have 4 people that going to come to lead the the workshop. We can't do 45 people with one session, so maybe we have 2 sessions. Whatever number we agree to, we need to have the money to buy the
We
lunch.
got that. We already got that, John.
All right.
We already
I
got
don't
that.
want to, right. That's it.
No, we passed that. We already settled
Good.
that
Excellent.
area.
All right.
I was just talking about getting an idea in terms, because you asked Ishmael what he thinks that number would look like, and somehow the number 40 came up, or 45. And I was saying that 45 people in a workshop, in a single workshop, right, might not be the appropriate thing, right? Because it's gonna involve discussion, it's gonna involve question and answer and all of that stuff. If you're talking about workshop, right? But then you know, from what Ishmael went on to explain, it sounds as if they still haven't fine-tuned it as yet as to how they would handle it in terms of whether a presentation, right? In which case of 4 to 5 people is fine. But in terms of workshop, especially if you're going to talk about lunch, refreshment and all of that, it means that it's gonna be a workshop that is gonna last over maybe a few hours, several hours. So
No,
you
no,
know,
no, 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 no. It won't be several hours. Tops 3 hours, to be honest with you. Tops 3 hours, because it has to be, because people attention span are extremely short, you know. So we can't have people there for
Man, now
prolonged
leave them
hours.
here all day for talk about
Yeah,
that.
man. Yeah, man.
So them have
Remember
I
me
to
and you,
guess
man.
I
come.
I know
guess
nobody had
I
chat
guess
to me
three
so long,
hours
you know.
and them are come hungry.
Yeah, man. Never class me like staying so long.
So it's like 3 hours and them come
Yeah,
hungry there.
don't worry about
Eh.
that, Patrick. The lady them and Ishmael work out that detail. Them go on the ground. We have to worry about how much money we're going to donate for provide the lunch and the drink. All right, so make we move, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, this is this first in a series of discussion we're going to have around the manifesto and mobilizing the Jamaican people. Because whatever manifesto we come up with, the Jamaican people has to own it. And they will not own something that they haven't made a contribution to. So that is another challenge face us. How do we get the Jamaican people behind this manifesto? Next week we're gonna continue the discussion. Hopefully we'll have a phone number. We're gonna open up the phone so we can hear from the Jamaican people. You know, I don't like the idea of us men sitting in a room and coming up with ideas and then moving
But
out.
nobody has
You
that
know,
idea, Mr. Chairman. No one in this group have that
no,
idea.
I'm not saying.
Mr.
I, I,
Boy, may I
You
tell
I,
you,
want
hey,
John?
the difficult,
no,
You want John?
the
I want
difficult, you
politician,
know.
you know.
I'm telling
You
you,
want John? I want politician through the
John is
chair.
giving me a type,
Who in
giving
this
me a type.
meeting have that idea?
No, but hear me, John is giving me a title, which I'm not willing to bear right and
You have
now,
to bear it because you're the chairman and you say
Okay.
things that have impact.
Well, I'm gonna bring a woman beside me, so it'll be a cheer, two-hour chairperson. But
Patrick,
what,
I could get a donation for Mikey for buy lunch
you,
for Mikey, so I'm talk less.
well, that sound
That sound
well,
feasible.
yes. So,
By
brethren,
next week, sorry, we want to be sure that we're gonna have something new to add next week. So
yes,
why don't we agree? I will circulate the paperwork that the lady brought, but I don't want us to have an open discussion on their budget. That's not our
no,
business. Our
no,
business is how can we support the program and also the meeting in Waterhouse. And the quicker we decide, because September, she was hoping to have it, this month. But to be honest with you, we are now in the middle of September. So, and
So
I don't get the banking information to send money yet.
so
So,
hold on, John.
yeah,
Hold on right there. Because let me understand something clearly. This document you're gonna circulate, right, with them. Is it something we're gonna discuss publicly, or we're gonna discuss it in a meeting before
the
putting out our
document
position?
that I'm sending to you is not a document for public discussion. It's
That's
the
what I wanna understand.
right. It's a private document, so we need to meet on it at some point, which would not be a public meeting. Maybe part of it can be public. The
No.
contribute.
No, let's be clear. It's not a public discussion.
No, it's
That's
not. It's just that money,
Right there.
money, for example, let me go over it and talk with her, and then I'm more informed and I can send it out with a note as to how best to treat with it. Okay? Because I'm not sure, if we're trying to raise money and diaspora members are on the program and they can want to give a donation, they should be able to give something. So let me talk with the lady again and send out the document with the relevant notes for next week, and then we can determine how best, what is private and what is public. Is that okay, gentlemen?
Yeah, that sounds quite fine.
On that note, gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for today's discussion. Herb, welcome, my brethren.
Thank you, Mike.
Welcome. You return to the platform, and we love
Return
you.
from the cool.
So
Come
I
in
hope.
from the
Before
cool.
It get cold up. It getting cold up here.
I, I hope you heard my opening remarks. That this platform, we
before
invite each and every one to take part in this because
run
we, we,
the trailer, chairman. Run the trailer across the screen, man. What do you?
before we go,
Yo,
John. Right?
Hey,
I want to hold it to this again because, like I said, when you talk, you very long-winded. So it's a whole heap of things you talk about, right? Now, the manifesto that we're supposed to be discussing, right? You're gonna send out again what the latest draft is on that, because that was where we were.
the latest draft is the one I already sent out. You want me to send it out again?
Send it out again so I can be clear what is what.
Okay. You hear that, chairman? This was the last draft, the one I was reading from. It had 11 points. I will send it again so everybody have it.
Yeah,
You have it, Ishmael. Ishmael, you have it? You don't have it?
It
Of
sounds
what?
slightly different
through
from
the
the
chair,
last one
through
we
the
had.
chair. No, no, member John, I don't have it.
All right. So it's worthwhile.
Brethren,
No,
listen,
we'll send it
listen.
out. We'll send it out again, Patrick.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
So, brethren, we need to increase the likes, So, I want to say to the listeners, we have to up the likes and sharing. Ishmael, I don't hear you encouraging the likes anymore, but we're going to work it out. All right. So, until next week, stay strong, walk good. Don't do anything that I would not do. And remember, like and share Waterhouse Vibe every Sunday from 4 o'clock until 6. The place
All
where
right.
you have lively discussion, no quarrel, no cuss or passa. All right? Until then, see you.
Herbie,
All
let me,
We'll
let me
talk.
talk to you one-on-one.
Yeah, we'll
All
talk.
right. Yeah.
right, take care.
Yeah, man. Everything cool.
All right, Pat,
Drink.
Ishmael,
Yeah, man,
Mike,
big up on yourself,
and
man.
you people in the audience. Good
Drink
Yes.
to
more
see
water
y'all
and,
out
Yes.
there.
man,
All
because
the
me and you.
best. Some good
Yeah,
people in
man.
the audience. I hope they will be here next week.
Yeah.